Welcome to Secure Money Mindset, where seasoned advisors cover the topics that matter most to your financial future. Each episode is packed with practical insight, real conversations, and guidance you can trust. Let's dive in.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Secure Money Mindset with Secure Planning Group. Very happy to have you. On our country's 250th anniversary, we're talking a little bit in this episode, which is our second season, 9th episode, talking about financial freedom. So I'm going to be your host today, Travis Boyer, a financial advisor here. And this is
Stephen Bachmann. I will be letting you steer this ship.
Right. Well, we figured today we're fresh off our July 4th holiday. And with that holiday freshly in the rearview mirror, we're thinking about things that help clients become financially free. So we all appreciate our freedom here in America. And I'm sure people appreciate freedom in their household. So we just have a couple quick talking points today to discuss 4 areas that people can potentially focus on or pay attention to that can really add some tools in their toolbox for financial freedom. Would you agree with me, Steve?
Yep, you know better than I do.
All right. Well, as we were brainstorming this, our first area that is very apparent to a household for initial financial freedom is managing your cash flow. And I'd say that we'd maybe focus more on a spend with purpose theme. So when you're earning dollars, we have to spend them, right?
Unfortunately.
All right. Every dollar seems to find a way to leave unless we tell it where to go, right? So as we earn our money, we have to tell our dollars where to go and what to be used for. Otherwise, they'll leave. So a client or a household should be thinking first when they're getting their paycheck, they're getting their direct deposit or whatever compensation they're earning, they need to be really thinking about their cash flow. Where's the money going? And that starts the budget, right?
Yep, it's important to know what you're spending month to month.
Exactly. So in starting to craft a good cash flow management plan, it always starts with a budget. Now, most people don't keep a checkbook register. Do you keep a checkbook register?
Not anymore.
Right? I think most people would even say, like, what's a checkbook? Right? But you don't necessarily have to balance your checkbook to the penny to have a good understanding of where your cash flow goes. It helps, but it's not required, right? So I think that if you are paying attention to the outflows of where your money is going, either on a weekly or a monthly basis, that's probably a very good starting point. Would you say, Steve?
Yeah, I think sometimes people either over or underestimate what their true spending habits are.
Absolutely. I'm thinking of a client meeting yesterday where we went through their budget. We added an extra 15% on top of that budget. And then as we got deeper into the conversation, we discovered that, oh, wait, their budget was really not what was happening in their household. So it does behoove you to take some time, get into the actual numbers of where your money is going, reviewing your bank statements, reviewing your transactions, your monthly bills, checking on things to make sure that you're not overlooking significant cash flow items. So we also want to make sure that you're spending with a purpose and not getting, let's say, out over your skis, right? So when
You love that analogy.
yes, being a skier, I can appreciate not getting over my skis, but we also want to pay attention to those bills that everybody seems to have, like the car payment or a car lease, or maybe sports teams that the kids are consuming your time and energy and calendar space with. And those things really require some critical thinking to make sure that you're not overspending on those items. I know I have a daughter in volleyball right now. That can get expensive with travel. And there's always one more thing to do with volleyball or one more trick to take with gymnastics for my other daughter. And those are some of the things you have to pay attention to as well. There's a limit to, let's say, the return on investment. And you want to make sure that those dollars are going to appropriate places.
Kind of like your protege advisor.
Yes, exactly. So, and of course, as you're looking at cars, there's always one more trim level above the one you're looking at. So make sure you're buying cars that are appropriate for what you need in your household and not just to try to keep up with the Joneses. Fair points?
Fair points.
Excellent. So that's our first item there when we're talking about financial freedom in the household, is paying attention to your cash flow, managing your cash flow, and really spending with purpose. Second point, as we're brainstorming these topics without any real advanced planning, is starting to put some protections around your household. So when we're thinking about that, we want to build financial resilience, right? Tomorrow's never guaranteed. I think we both agree on that, right?
Yeah, I hear you say it a lot. It's actually kind of a good reminder for people when they don't want to spend money that maybe they have that they could use effectively.
Absolutely. So if we know that tomorrow's not guaranteed, we do want to both sort our resources appropriately with our cash flow management, and we want to protect what might be coming down the road just around the bend that we don't see. So that's making sure that your insurances are in place, that you have proper coverages for your property that you own and have worked hard for, and that you're also checking to make sure that the costs you're paying to insure things are aligned with the market and the risks that are out there. It's a very common occurrence, and maybe this happens with you, Steve, too, that you'll meet with people and they haven't reviewed their homeowner's insurance or their car insurance for years. You ever run into that?
Yeah, and they just assume that they're getting the best deal and the best service, and little do they know that's something that they need to keep up with.
Absolutely. A good habit with your property and casualty insurance, your homeowners, your automotive, your umbrella policies, is to really check that every 3 years. So even though you may have been an excellent driver, no accidents, every insurance company has a sweet spot that they compete in, and other insurance companies know they may not be competitive in their counterpart states. So you might age into a bracket where you're no longer competitive, or you could also move into a zip code with a new home that might not be price competitive with your existing company. Always a good idea to check and make sure you shake that tree every 3 years. In addition to that, we also have to pay attention to disability and life insurances, right? I mean, obviously, those are catastrophic if something happens there.
Right. And I know you always talk about the likelihood of someone needing disability insurance as opposed to maybe life insurance. And now we have to scale our needs based on what we can afford.
Absolutely. When we look at mortality statistics versus morbidity statistics, it's more likelihood that you're going to run into some type of disability event in your life at a much greater potential than dying early. So you want to make sure you had your disability coverages in place, whether that's through work or through a private policy you're going to discuss with us as your advising team. And of course, making sure your life insurance is properly placed there. So once we manage our cash flow, we then have to protect it. And we need to build that financial resilience. We have to protect against things that come at us and really watch out for those fiery darts that we don't see coming. Fair point?
Worth every penny.
Absolutely. So to move on to our third point, we want to be talking about the ways that we invest in our future, right?
Everyone does it differently.
And I think our bread and butter work is financial planning that leads up to retirement planning, right?
Yeah.
So once you got your ABCs down with your budget and you're well protected for those things that come out of left field, then we got to start looking at the horizon, seeing where our ship is going and how we're going to get there. So that involves retirement planning, investments, putting a plan together and making sure that the goals that you have are in line with your daily activities, right? I know you like to work out, right, Steve?
And eat.
And eat, right? Consume those calories. But if you want to get a bigger bench press, right, you obviously need to have a goal of what that bench press is going to be. And I'm sure you have some type of workout plan to get there and to achieve that goal, correct?
Absolutely.
So much like you would work out
Good at bench.
right? Well, much like you would work out at the gym, or you'd have some type of other goal in either a hobby or some other activities in your household, you need to have goals, priorities, and ways to get to those goals and priorities with a financial plan. So that's really where meeting with somebody from Secure Planning Group, myself as an advisor, Stephen as an advisor, can really add value to the time you spend with this activity. If you don't know where you're going, you're going to be off course. Hey, you might stumble on a new country, right? Like Columbus did. But remember, Columbus was looking for a way to get to India, not to find a new world in America. So we don't always strike it rich like he did. But without a financial plan, you have a greater likelihood of veering off your intended course than you do hitting the mark. Fair statement?
Yeah, and I think it's important to know that like people make decisions, things change a lot, so it's important to kind of reevaluate things and adapt to whatever life is throwing at you.
Absolutely. Well, I think along that line, too,
Discover Lent.
exactly. I think along those lines, it's important to remember too that retirement we're filming this in July of 2026. That looks a lot different than retirement did July of 1976, for example. So when we think about maybe our parents' generation or our grandparents' generation retiring, it's kind of unfortunate to say, but they really didn't have a long lifespan after their retiring. So retirement years weren't very long after they stopped working. Now it's not impossible for someone to live 40 years in retirement. If you're working with teachers or someone in the state employees retirement system, they might retire at 55 years old, live to 95, and have 40 years in retirement. That takes money to live a comfortable lifestyle for that long in retirement. So we have to plan for that. And really what we find the healthiest plans doing are to really plan for that next chapter. We're not retiring. We're not hitting a finish line. We're burning a page. We're closing one chapter and opening another one. So I think that's really important too in our discussions. They don't always have to be financial. We're usually talking about what are the next steps, not just in the checkbook, not just in your 401k, but what is that next career path? What's that next financial theme that we want to paint in your household? So very important there, not just talking about retirement and getting that finish line. We're talking about that next chapter too.
Right. And people are needing to like understand these concepts that surround retirement, that maybe something that we're exposed to frequently is like something that maybe they never even thought of, right? Like how retirement can affect personal.
Absolutely. I heard this from my mentor back in 2005, and he said that a mind that's in retirement and is not fed will eat itself. And that stuck with me for 20 years now. So if you're not feeding your mind, it's going to eat itself. And again, that's not going to be a healthy lifestyle. So we're meant to work. We're meant to be busy. You got to get into that next chapter.
I think your wife just told you that so that you're not stuck at home after to retire.
Right? She said, get a new job if you ever retire. But our fourth point, so we've managed our cash flow. We've protected our assets. We've protected our family through various insurances, identifying risks. We've charted a path to retirement. We've charted goals and getting to a point where we want to be in retirement or whatever that final chapter is or next chapter. But we all know that the life expectancy for a human in America, 2026, a life expectancy is eventually going to go to zero, right? Nobody gets out of this game alive, right? So we also have to plan for our estate and our legacy. What do we want to do once we've run this race with our assets, with our family, with our legacy? And that really turns into a whole other conversation after retirement planning that really involves working with our clients' other advisors, like their accountants, their attorneys, their trustees, and really building a legacy plan that can be multi-generational. If you've worked so hard in your life to build wealth, it's only one more step that you should take to really put some substantive planning behind that and make good financial decisions to steward that wealth into the future generations. So that's one that we really work with our partners on, and we find that joint meetings, I think, are best served in those type of discussions. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's like outside of the box type thinking that people they never, again, talk about exposure. They were never exposed to it. They don't know about it. And then they don't plan for it.
Exactly. I mean, I'm a student of history, and when you compare, let's say, the Rockefeller family versus the Vanderbilts, different planning, drastically different outcomes. Most of the Vanderbilt's mansions are now tourist sites. You don't see that with the Rockefellers.
Yeah. It's definitely something that you should Google if you haven't already.
Exactly. So 4 points on our Secure Money Mindset podcast here. Season 2, episode 9, we were talking about ways to build financial freedom in your household. Our first was talking about cash flow management. Our second was talking about protection and securing things for those unknowns. Third was working with a retirement plan, getting guidance for your long-term goals. And the fourth was protecting that legacy and your estate plan. So,
Just the basics.
absolutely, just the basics. I hope you learned something today. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us at securepg.net. And of course, with this podcast, please like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll talk to you on the next episode. Thanks a lot.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Secure Money Mindset. For more, search Secure Money Mindset on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and watch full episodes on YouTube. Thanks for listening to Secure Money Mindset, where financial security is a state of mind.